All right, we are open up to the next clean page in our notebook, and we are titling it 6.7, divide by a decimal in today's date, 11/19/20. I can throw in lessons I don't think are necessary if you want me to. All right, ready to rock. 6.7, divide by a decimal in today's date of 11/19/20. Well, then you can do that on your weekends. Okay. So 5th grade, as we've gone through working with decimals, I pretty much always tell you it's easier than you think. And would you guys agree that I've been right most of the time with that? Okay. So I'm not going to say all the time, but a lot of the time. Now, I am going to say that as well with dividing by decimals. You might be thinking, Miss E, I can't easily divide by a decimal number. Well, there is a step we take before we actually divide that makes it much easier. It's just remembering to do that step every time you're dividing by a decimal number. That's what we need to get into the habit of, okay? Does everyone have their title and today's date up at the top? Okay, so we are going to get right into a practice problem. So I have the title, or the subtitle I should say, how to divide by a decimal, and I have the problem we'll be working with, and you'll notice above each number I labeled what they are. So we are taking 62 hundredths and dividing it by 25 hundredths. Now the 62 hundredths, that's the number we're splitting up. That's our dividend. And the number we're dividing by is 25 hundredths. That's our divisor. So I would also like you to write dividend and divisor above both of them. So we have dividend and divisor. Give me a quiet thumbs up on your desk when you have this written down. Thank you, Michael and Allison and Emmy and Will, Mackenzie, Addie, Frankie, Grayson, Eosius, Layla, Drew, I think. Okay, Senna and Philip, Alina, Chanel, Jack L. Voices off, please. Voices off, please. Jack P. All right, you guys, I'd like you at your desks. At your desks. All right, are we ready to move on? Okay, so we have some steps. And like I said, it's really one step that we're adding to our process. So, step 1, we need to move the decimal in the divisor until it's a whole number. So go ahead, get this written down just as I have it, and then I'm going to show you what I mean. So step 1, move the decimal in the divisor until it's a whole number. Get that written down, and then I will show you what I mean. Don't worry, I will show you. I'm going to put my hand here because it makes it brighter for whatever reason. Yep. Okay. Voices off, please. We'll do, let's do purple. So, step 1, move the decimal in the divisor until it's a whole number. So when we're setting up our division problem, the divisor is always the part that's outside of the kind of half box we make. It's on the left of that. Michael, thank you. Emmy, and Addie, and Layla, Chanel, Richie, Sana, Drew, Jack L, Elena, Allison, Kenzie, Will, Jack P. We still have people writing notes, so I don't know why we're talking. Grayson, Theosius, Philip, Madison, Frankie. All right, does anyone need more time? Okay, so I want to show you what I mean. That means whatever our divisor is, we are moving this decimal over until it becomes a whole number. So I'm going to put my pencil, or in this case pen, on the decimal. I'm moving it over once, twice. Now it is here. So you are going to do the same thing. So now it is 25. Then, are we ready to go on to the next step? Did we all move our decimal? Now, we can't just move the decimal in only the divisor. Our second step, move the decimal in the dividend the same number of places. Now, fifth grade, this is very important. It's the same number of places. If we were to have 0.623 as our dividend, it would remain a decimal number because we're only moving it over 2 times. In this case, though, it happens to make our dividend a whole number as well. So if we move the decimal in the dividend the same number of places, then we have to move it over 2 times as well. 1, 2. Now, like I said, if there was another number after that 2, it would go between the 2 and whatever number that is. Doesn't mean we make both of them automatically a whole number. It just means we move the decimal the same number of times. Thank you, Drew and Addie and Jack L, Frankie, Layla, Michael, Theosius, Emmy, Jack L, voice, Richie. Actually, no voices right now. Anna, thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Elena. Jack L, turn off your voice, please. All right. Do we have number 2 done? Did we all move the decimal in number 2? Okay. So then, step 3, divide and add zeros after the decimal if needed. Now, 5th grade, I do want to just quickly tell you. So for this one, we move the decimal before we set up the problem. I will also show you what to do if the problem's already set up for you, okay? So go ahead, get number 3 done, and then you can solve. So complete number 3, and then you can solve. I'll know you're ready when I see a thumbs up on your desk, when you've solved it. Are we all ready to check our answer? Yes. Okay. So, we look at this together. What? Quickly. All right. So, 25. Can it go into 6? No. Can 25 go into 62? Yes. Show me on your hand how many times does 25 go into 62? 2 times. So I'm going to put a 2 above the 2. Waiting for voices to be off. 25 times 2 is 50. So I'm going to subtract 50. 2 minus 0 is 2. 6 minus 5 is 1. Now, Richie came over and asked me, Missy, can we still add zeros? Yes. That's why I still included that decimal, you guys, so that you would remember that the decimal was there. We can add a 0 to the very end all the way to the right of a decimal. So then we bring down our 0. 25 goes into 120 how many times? Show me on your hand. Show me on your hand how many times. It goes in 4 times. 25 times 4 is 100. So I'm going to subtract 100. 120 minus 100 is 20. I'm going to add another 0. Bring it down. We get 200. 25 goes into 200. Show me on your hands. How many times? It goes in 8 times. Minus 200. We get 0. My decimal goes straight up. 2 and 48 hundredths. What did you notice, Michael?
2 times 4 is 8. Heh knee slapper.
All right. Ready to rock?
Ready to roll.
Now, 5th grade, I'm going to show you your practice problems. Don't complete them until I show you how I like to move the decimal when they're already set up for us, okay? So get it written down first, and then I'm going to show you something, then you'll be able to start on it. So here are your 2 practice problems. Voices off. Please get them written down. Voices off. Let's get our practice problems written down. So number 1 is 2 hundredths divided by 5 hundredths. Number 2 is 24 and 2 tenths divided by 5 and 5 tenths. I'm actually going to go ahead and extend my line a little bit longer on both of these. All right. So 2 hundredths divided by 5 hundredths, and 24 and 2 tenths divided by 5 and 5 tenths. Thank you. I see a few people finishing up getting these practice problems written down. Doing great so far. Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone need more time getting these written down? Okay, I'll give you another moment. All right, still working. My sister. All right, so Jack. All right, ready to rock. Ready to rock. There we go. Okay, so when it's set up for us, you guys, remember, our divisor is on the outside of the this is like a half of a box, right? Yeah, the divisor is on the outside. So that's where we start when we move our decimal. How many times do I need to move this decimal, 5th grade? 2 times. So let's move the decimal 2 times. 1, 2. So then, 5th grade, how many times do I move the decimal in the dividend? 2 times. 1, 2. Go ahead, solve number 1 and number 2. Go ahead and solve. So if after you move that decimal for number 1, you guys, if those zeros are throwing you off, you could erase them, but you need to make sure you're remembering that there is a decimal point after the 2. So keep the decimal point, but if you needed to erase those zeros, you could. If it's kind of throwing you off. Make sure you keep the decimal point where it is. should be up. I want to say thank you to the 90% of the class who was able to wait as I was helping others. The 10% of you who were talking, let's do better next time, please. Okay, so let's look at this together. Jacko, you should be seated at your desk. So when we moved those decimals in number 1, we suddenly had 2 divided by 5, which some of you are like, Miss E, we can't do that. But what can we always add after a decimal if we need to? A 0. So we eventually need to do that. So 5 can't go into 2. So I'm immediately, since we have a decimal here, I can add a 0 right after it. I'm going to add my 0. Can 5 go into 20? Show me on your hand, how many times does 5 go into 20? It goes in 4 times. So I'm going to put that 4 above the 0. 5 times 4 is 20, so I'm subtracting 20 from 20. I get 0. My decimal for my answer goes straight up. But can I leave my answer like this? I need a 0 in the ones place. So 4/10 would be my answer. How many of you got 4/10 for number 1? Okay, awesome. Now let's look at number 2. So number 2, we're doing the same thing. We're starting with the divisor on the outside. How many times do I need to move my decimal? One time. So I'll move it over once. And you guys, I always like to make the decimal bigger when I move it so that I make sure I'm looking at it with the decimal out here. How many of you were moving the decimal and then erasing the first one? How many of you did that? If that works for you, keep doing it, okay? And then since we moved this one once, we have to move this decimal in our dividend once. So move it once, now it's here. So now we have 55 going into 242. Because 55 can't go into 2, it can't go into 24, but it can go into 242. Show me on your hand, how many times does 55 go into 242? How many times? It goes in 4 times. So I'm going to put a 4 above the 2. 55 times 4 is 220. So I'm going to subtract 220. 2 minus 0 is 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Then, can 55 go into 22, 5th grade? No. We're going to bring down our 0. Or add a 0 and bring it down. Can 55 go into 220? Show me how many times on your hand. How many times? It goes in 4 times. So I'm lining it up with that 0. Minus 220. 220 minus 220. 0. What? 220 minus 220 equals 0. I said that, didn't I? Okay. Our decimal then goes straight up. And we have 4 and 4/10. How many of you got 4 and 4/10 as your answer for number 2?
I got something wrong, but I got it correct.
Interesting.
I got 0 point. It's something wrong.
Richie, did you bring up the first decimal, not the second one?
Yeah, I went up.
So 5th grade, it's very important. You don't bring up the decimal where the decimal originally was. You pay attention to where you moved the decimal, okay? So don't go with where the decimal started. Go with where it ended after you moved it. That's why I like to make it bigger when I move it so that I make sure I'm paying attention to that decimal. That is also why if you wanted to, and you'd still have to be careful, but if you wanted to and you recognize, okay, I'm moving this once, write the decimal and then erase the original. And then you can move the 1 in the dividend once and then erase the original if it messes you up when you have both of the decimals there, okay? Okay, close your eyes. You're going to show me how you are feeling with this. Close your eyes. Close those eyes. All right, when it comes to dividing a decimal by a decimal, or a number by a decimal number, how are we feeling 1 through 5? Show me on your hand. 1 through 5, how are you feeling with this? 1 through 5, how are we feeling? Okay. And I know this is our first day doing it. But it's okay if you're a little bit lower than you have been the last 2 days. All right, hands down. Hands down. Open your eyes. Have your workbooks ready. I'm going to tell you what your homework is. You are opening up to page 100, page number 341. 341. Some of you are wasting your work time. Waiting for you. All right, you are circling number 5, number 10, number 14, number 17, number 20. I'm going to say it again. We're on 341. You're circling number 5, number 10, number 14, number 17, and number 20. Now, before you really get started on your homework, I'm going to call your row. When I call your row, you can keep out your math workbook and notebook if you like to look at it. But you're going to put everything else away and take out your Spanish binder. Capiche? So math and Spanish binder is all that you should have out. So let's have our first and second row. You guys get started with doing that. Just math and Spanish binder out. And planner, yes.